Have you ever had those dreams where you feel like you were really there? You can almost make out faces and landscapes, but it's just too out of focus? You know that it's real, but something feels off. Like a slight feeling of unease, because somewhere deep in your subconscious you know that it's all just a dream. This is the experience I had playing the new title from Stress Level Zero, a game development studio headed and created by someone who used to make videos on YouTube, short films and the like. Recently, around 2016, him and his crew made the switch to game design, releasing their first game, Duck Season. Oh, and don't worry, I do in fact have some things to say about Duck Season, but that's for another time. After 2016 and the release of Duck Season, most didn't know what was next for Stress Level Zero until early 2017. When Brandon's group, Channel Node, a channel where he and his buddies play video games, released a video showcasing their new core technology, physics-based weapons and environments. They would release more of these videos showcasing this technology until around mid-2018, when Brandon announced that this core technology they've been experimenting with will be released as a full title in 2019, titled Boneworks. This was a very exciting announcement, as many, including myself, were very interested in this technology. Jump to around late 2019 when the game is released on most VR headsets, except PlayStation VR, can we get an F in chat, on December 10th to the praise of many. The game is excellent, the devs are very communicative about what's next for the game, the modding community is great, and the game is updated with new content every few weeks, such as new additions to the sandbox and arena modes. Now, why am I here? Doing this, talking in front of a microphone for a few minutes. Today I'm going to be taking an in-depth review at Boneworks, its mechanics, and a more personal psychological perspective on the game. We aren't going to be talking story theories or gameplay analysis. I'm going to be talking about how Boneworks makes me feel, rather than what is purely fact. This video is based in my kind of stupid science that doesn't make any fucking sense, and most of it's probably coming out of my ass. But I want to say it anyway, because that's what opinions are for. In one of the last levels of Boneworks, there's a long ladder. When you're looking at this thing, you're telling yourself, hey, it's a video game. How hard could climbing this bad boy be? Turns out it's very, very, very difficult to climb. Why is that? It's a ladder in a video game. Your big stupid human brain obviously knows you're playing a VR game, so why do my arms hurt? This is partially a physical problem and partially a mental problem. I call it a problem, but it's more of a mental phenomenon. We're going to start referring to this thing as, the Peripheral Individual Sensory Solution, or PISS for short. When you experience PISS, you are essentially looking at this ladder knowing exactly what it is and what it's for. When your brain sees the ladder, you're like, oh nuts, this is a ladder, I've done this before. And then your brain sends a signal to your body to be ready for a real ladder. Which is why when you try to climb this bad boy, you feel tired because not only do you believe it is a real ladder, but you're also looking straight up and pretending to climb something that isn't there. Tends to get tiring doing this for long periods of time. PISS is a very subjective thing that is hard to describe. Those of you watching this video who have played a lot of VR have probably experienced PISS before. To those people, you probably know what PISS feels, tastes, and smells like. Wait, that's not right. God damn it. But seriously, if you felt this thing before, you know what I mean when I say, oh fuck, that's not a real table, because you heard someone in your house yell food, so you try to put your controllers down on the table and just end up dropping them on the floor because the table wasn't actually there. I would also consider this PISS, just in a different circumstance. While the ladder is just you in the game, this scenario also has the variable of the real world. You get to the point where you know you are in a game, but are immersed enough for your brain to act as if it were real. If that's the case, then what is this? Listen, I can explain, please. Another really good example is the in-game weapons. A lot of these weapons are things that I have either held or used in real life, and let me tell you, these weapons are a lot of fun. Most of them have really done weight and movement, not as good as something like Blade and Sorcery, of course, as that game is designed from the ground up with melee in mind. Oh god, I'm having flashbacks. There's such a large variety of weapons to use that you can find throughout the levels, as well as a variety of guns. Using these weapons on the various enemies in the game is a really good time. Speaking of... Oh, you want me to talk about the incredibly impressive physics-based enemies? Well, I guess you asked for it, so now I gotta talk about it, eh? The enemies in Boneworks are by far the most impressive thing about the game for me. Take my concept of piss, right? Now take all the things I've said about it and apply it to something that can punch you in the face and fight back. Pretty crazy. These guys are mostly just retextures of each other with slightly different attacks, at least for the humanoid enemies. Crab! But my personal favorite of all of them is definitely between these blue zombie dudes and the Fords. Everyone say hi to Ford. Ford is a working class man. He has a job, a beautiful dead wife, and a love of golf. Now Ford is dead. Killed by what he loved most. The putter. For real though, it's super impressive how these guys work. You can even break ligaments and cripple them in various ways to make the fight against them more difficult. Like, isn't it easy enough already? This is Ford 2. Everyone say hi to Ford 2. Ford 2 has a rare disease that makes it so that both of his legs are broken. You should feel bad for Ford 2 because his cousin is dead. Now Ford 2's arms are broken. Now Ford 2 is dead. But really, these enemies are super intriguing from a game design perspective, and in the words of Brandon himself...
Because it just uses these sensors, and then it detects, rather than being like, oh, I fell down, now I need to get up. Instead, it's, oh, my center of mass is tipped over, so I need to perform this action to try to correct that. Oh.
This is wonderful to see, because I played video games, especially in VR, with physics-based enemies, and this is absolutely incredible from a game design perspective, because it's just so cool to see when you're physically able to touch these guys and interact with them. Now, there is one more enemy that I want to discuss purely for its fear value. Ah! The crabs in this game are simultaneously the cutest and most terrifying thing ever. They're obviously a VR nod to the head crabs from Half-Life, which is also getting a VR game later this year. Oh god, that's gonna be horrifying. These guys scare the absolute life out of me for some reason. Maybe it's because they're coming at you right now. Watch out! These guys work on the same principles discussed as with other enemies, except the difference with these guys is they are smaller, faster, and have an undying thirst to grab onto your face and tear into your neck meat. Sounds like something I'm very familiar with. Anyway, they have these little pests scattered around everywhere, and they are super fun to play with. They have these properties that most other enemies don't smash, like being very small and easily movable and pick-upable, allowing for headbutts, wall slams, ooh, that's not allowed, Hulk smash! You got the wrong guy, dude. And my personal favorite, slow-motion mid-air stabby! All of these wacky enemies come together to form the holy trinity of enemies. There are some other guys like the Omni Droids, aka the Shooty McShooter boys, but they aren't much fun to talk about other than the fact that they kill me way too much. Overall, Boneworks is an excellent VR experience and definitely goes up there with some of my favorite VR games of all time. I wouldn't recommend Boneworks to a beginner VR player, but if you're feeling up for an interesting VR experience with twists, turns, and creative level design, then Boneworks is your game. Now, this sounds like I'm pulling stuff straight out of my ass, and most of this I just came up with on the spot because I wanted to talk about a game I'm really into right now. But the point is that is true. And the point is that we're at a point with game design where we can make games so good and so well designed that the human brain won't be able to tell that it's different from reality. That's some serious Sword Art Online stuff right there. We're beginning to enter a new age where we will never be able to truly tell if we're living in a simulation or not. So, are we? All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, now I just gotta render this bad boy and then get it into the YouTube servers, and it should be all good. That's gonna take a bit to render. So I'm gonna go get some food, you know? Where am I? When did